Right, it is 6:30, so I think we will kick off. As I know everyone that we are expecting is here, so we will, get on with the evening. So, I'll just get my notes up. To start off, just good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming. I hope you all had a lovely summer break. And I'm Councillor Izzy Cook. I'm the chair of the Inclusive Economy and Culture Scrutiny Panel. So our main agenda item today is from Visit Greenwich, and we're very happy to have Barry Kelly, the Chief Executive, with us today. So thank you so much for coming and braving the strike action. First, we'll do apologies for absence. So we've got apologies from Councillor Sam Littlewood, Councillor Charlie Davies, Councillor Claire Burke MacDonald, and Councillor Sandra Thomas. I've been made aware of no urgent business for tonight. Are there any declarations of interest from anyone here? No? Perfect. And I believe the minutes were circulated to members. Are we all happy to agree the minutes from the last meeting? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So, I will hand over to Barry. Whenever you're ready, please do kick off.
Just checking if this works okay. Yeah. This is the smallest crowd I've ever done for Scrutiny. I'm not sure which way to take it.
I should have said we are actually being video recorded, so it will go up on YouTube. Okay. So you might get a few more views from your presentation.
Okay. I've got 39 slides, but I can assure you I'm very quick, and a lot of them are quite visual, so I'll kind of speed through. But is there a particular time you want me to keep to?
No, this is the only agenda item for today, so we're in your hands.
So basically, you can ask me anything as I go along, and then at the end have a full Q&A. Right, okay, let's move on. So I'm going to talk about Visit Greenwich, how we're set up, what we do, what the plan basically is, what's working well, what are the priorities are for this year, next year, some of the challenges, and then hopefully there's something in there to give you some interest to question me further. So the first thing is, why does tourism matter? The main thing is money. It brings in 140 billion into the UK. London is about 35 billion. Greenwich is about 2 billion. And that equates to jobs. So in Greenwich, there are about 16,000 jobs supported. So our main KPI is around creating wealth, keeping wealth internally, creating jobs. But it's a bit more than that. A lot of our offer is about education, particularly in the historical parts of the borough. And also you'll probably hear Sadiq Khan talk quite a bit about soft power, and tourism is a good lever for places in general, particularly as a stepping stone to inward investment. So it's a bit more than, it ties into the kind of image agenda. And also places that have the right balance of tourism tend to have better services for local people, if you get the balance right, unlike Venice or parts of Spain. But in that, there are lots of businesses are propped up with tourism revenue, which means it's better for local people as well. So that's why tourism matters. That's how we're set up. The partnership is probably the strongest it's been. We've got a strong board. I've got a couple of board members behind me, some really powerful brands. And I think, my team is 10 people. The actual company is small, turn over £1 million a year. The power of Visit Greenwich is in the partnership. And you look at only a few are on there. There are some mega brands, and how we bring those brands together and project through the Greenwich brand is the real power of Visit Greenwich. We do 6 things. Everyone thinks it's about destination marketing, and that's probably the most visible thing. Getting people to come here, inspire them to visit and spend money, get the right kind of people to come. Looking after people once they're here, moving them around safely to have a great welcome and stay longer, spend more money. Increasingly, we're a kind of a voice for the sector to help, we get asked a lot to support applications for certain things. Some things we support, some things we don't support. Increasingly, because of the way we're funded business support, we do an awful lot of one-to-one work for businesses, which is something we probably didn't do 10 years ago much of, but now we have to do. Intelligence is something I think we probably do the best. I know another 100 DMOs across the country, and I think our intelligence, the way we monitor things, is as good as any other destination, and you'll see some stats later. And on skills, we're more of a broker, really, the portal. We work with GLAB, we work with the university, Ravensbourne, LSEC. We act as a kind of bridge between employers and skills providers, and we have a skills working group. So that's more about brokerage rather than direct delivery. I'm not going to go through the plan because it's about 50 pages long. You can read it online, but the core of it is the customer, and everything we do is designed from the eyes of the customer. And there are 6 strands to it, you know, from people dreaming about where to go to planning and booking here, to getting here, which, you know, today is obviously a challenge. The actual destination experience and measuring and monitoring that, and then waving goodbye, and then monitoring the kind of visitor memory, as they call it, which is quite powerful on social media, you know, when people share their experiences. So everything we do is built around those kind of 6 platforms. The main KPIs we're measured on is around really spend, jobs, and visitation. So you'll see there, if you look, let me think, if you look at, I mean, they all correlate out, but if you look at the top right one, economic impact, you'll see there the impact of COVID. But our recovery was pretty strong, probably a year ahead of most destinations, and we're now fully recovered. And we're now up to about 2 billion visitor economy, about 16,000 jobs, massive growth around 23, and that's been plateauing off. Last year we grew by 4%. So we're kind of moving in the right direction, but the whole country is a little bit flat in tourism, and the whole country is quite flat in general, isn't it? So those figures are reflected in there. This one really pleases me more than anything, really. This has come from London and Partners, and it's the new one, the new score. And I think the Royal Borough of Greenwich is still number 2 or equal number 2. Visitor satisfaction. Only Richmond beats us. I've got no idea how or why, but Richmond's quite pleasant, but it doesn't have what we have. Anyhow, maybe expectations are lower there. But 8.9, 8.4 is it? 8.9, I can't read it. It's number 2 anyway, across all the boroughs. So I think that's a really pleasing, and that's from a very high sample size as well. So that's a real strength. This is an annual report in one image, which we update annually. On the left-hand side are the impacts at destination level, which I mentioned, 2 billion spend almost. Visitor satisfaction, number 2, jobs, and we've just got the new TripAdvisor rating again at 4.5, which is good. So those are the things we're trying to influence as a partnership, but clearly we can't claim all them figures. The ones on the right are the things which are more applicable to us and what we do. We engage now 250 businesses. We've won a few awards. Won a big one last year, Travel Marketing Awards. When we work together, those logos I showed you at the beginning, our collective reach now is about 8 million. So just by being coordinated and talking and joining up our thinking, and joining up our activities, by spending no money, we can reach 8 million people, which is really, really powerful, and we use that in everything that we do. And our kind of general metric for ROI, for every £1 we spend on marketing, we can demonstrate that £53 is spent in the borough, which is very high. Visit Britain claim to government about 20 to 1, to give you an idea, but they are doing quite a different role to us. Some examples of highlights. You'll all remember Greenwich. This was probably the strangest project I've ever worked on in my life, and when we did the photo shoot there with Jane Harrington and the mayor, I realised that I didn't possess anything green, and I had to run out and buy a jumper that was green for that launch at the end of last summer. We were approached by the PR agency of Universal in America, obviously the film Wicked, which I was forced to watch with my daughter thereafter, and that's only half of it. So we worked really well on this, and we kind of, I thought it was a spoof until it actually happened, until they actually paid us, and they paid the council as well some money, which went towards some community events. They paid us a bit as well, and but the way the whole thing unfolded, I thought at any point it would kind of like just stop, but it carried on, and it actually happened. And Jeff Goldblum came down to the Royal Observatory, and there's loads of PR, and all looked fantastic. And so we did a bit of a takeover, changing Greenwich to Greenwich, and the council worked really well with us, and as did RMG, but the University of Greenwich brought it to a whole new dimension, because they jumped on it, and they've got global contacts, particularly in Asia and China, and they kind of give it a kind of a new lift, and that's some of the PR there. We've got national TV. There's Jeff Goldblum in the middle. But anyway, this is the headline figure. We reached, thanks to the university's involvement, 1 billion people. Now, I've never been involved in the campaign that's reached 1 billion people before, and I don't think I ever will be again. Particularly, it costs us, £0. So it was all organic, it was all kind of real, and those are the figures. So I think it was a huge success. It was very unusual. It was very bold and brave. I think of partners to take it on. It was the easy thing to say would be say, no, it's too hard. And you know, you do get flack, and I know a few FOIs were flying around, but I think it was worth the risk when you see the figures. Our big marketing campaign at the moment is all based around film and TV. The reason is that 40% of all visitation now is inspired by film and TV. Because of the Netflix boom, content is everywhere. From Bridgerton to The Crown to all the movies, and so because the Old Royal Naval College is 100 years old as a film and TV heritage destination, and is now claiming to be the #1 film and TV venue in the whole country, they're actually going for a Guinness Book of Records attempt on the 27th of September. So if you want to dress up as a character, and there are 45 characters you can dress up as, from James Bond to Miss Piggy and everything in between. I'm going as Miss Piggy. You can be part of a Guinness World Record attempt on the 27th, and there's still a few hundred short, and it's free. So if you want to be in it, sign up and get down there. But this campaign was £80,000, and these days all of our marketing is fully funded through the private sector. So City Cruises, Uber Boat, RMG, Old Royal Naval College, the university, the cable car, etc., all put money into this, and it's going rather well. We launched it in May at the Old Royal Naval College with a few PR things, and we brought together a whole kind of way of even if you're not a film location, you could talk in a kind of film language and promote yourself. And but the one thing I would recommend you have a look at yourselves, and this has been promoted to local people, is this app, which is free to download because we put money into it, called Set Jetters. And essentially it's really cool. You can walk around the whole of the Royal Borough of Greenwich, and it's triggered by location. So if you're at the O2, it'll trigger a James Bond film. If you're here, I think it triggers a Jason Bourne film. If you're at the Painted Hall, it'll trigger a whole raft of things. You can see a clip of what would actually happen at that spot, copyright free, which is the big step change. You can then share it with your own content and then share it with your friends. So it's like, it's a really, 10 years ago, this would have cost 100 grand, and I think we invested 8K into it, along with Thames Clippers, and it's a really cool thing, and lots of people have been using it, and so I'd have a look at that if I were you. That's just an example of what it looks like. This year has been an interesting year. I said last year we were up 4%, but this year we're actually up again, but it's going to slow down, and the reason it's going to slow down is Maritime Greenwich and the DLR Cutty-Sark Station, which I'll talk about in a bit later. I'm sure you'll ask me about that. That is dampening demand for July and August, definitely. So I think these figures are a bit higher than they will be by the end of the year. So some corporate successes. Obviously, we're a membership and partnership organisation. We've brought in some good partners recently. London Square, the developer in Woolwich, have been putting quite a bit of money in. Blue Earth Summit, which is a huge event, coming to Woolwich Works again. I think they've signed a 3-year deal. Greenwich Theatre, it's taken me 10 years to get Greenwich Theatre on board. Really pleased about that. Artfix and a few others. So we're about 160 partnerships now, 250 businesses. Those are a few awards we won. We didn't win an award for Greenwich, unfortunately. We were beaten by some Australian thing, but at least we were shortlisted. But we did win the Travel Marketing Award the year before. And the TripAdvisor's just come in literally today, and we're still on 4.5, which is really good as a destination. This is a huge one. This is one of the best things we've ever done. UK Inbound used to be part of Visit Britain. It's a network of international travel trade buyers who bring money into the country. And they've never had an event in London, believe it or not. And they came to Woolwich Works last week, and it's the biggest event they've ever done. They had 350 global buyers. The leader of the council gave a fantastic welcome and really, really inspired people, and added some gravitas to the occasion. And the day after, we took about 50 tour operators across the borough to see Maritime Greenwich and the peninsula in particular. And we also created a new video for Destination Woolwich, which I'm not going to show now, but I can send it to you if you want to look at it. So, huge event, massive PR, and they're so pleased with the venue. They're asking, can they do a 3-year contract and maybe come back, because it's worked so well for them. Because it's the highest numbers. Quite often they're forced politically to go to other places like Coventry and Hull, and because it looks good politically, but the numbers are like 50 and 60. And here in Woolwich, it was 350. So really pleased with that one. Opportunity challenges. So if you look at the DMP, this is all in there, but essentially, in a nutshell, you know, the opportunity around maritime Greenwich is the evening economy. We know that's fairly weak, and we have done various projects in the past to simulate that with High Streets for All. The peninsula is the opposite, as you can imagine. Woolwich needs profile. You know, Woolwich is getting a great product, and it's gaining that traction. You know, the footfall is up, the transport's incredible, the investment in the town centre is incredible. But it does need more profile, and that means money. I know there isn't any money around, so we're doing what we can for Woolwich. You know, that UK inbound event, I could have brought it to Cutty's Ark quite easily, but I wanted to bring it here, because I know it's strategically important. So it just needs profile. Eltham, which I'll talk about in a bit, I think needs more cohesion between the town centre and the heritage offer. Charlton is quite a low opportunity of tourism, but with the football club getting promoted, they're on board with Visit Greenwich. I think there's an opportunity to do more with the football club. And Greenwich Waterfront is our big place shaping project, which is about joining up our assets on the waterfront much better. I'll come on to that as well. So those are the headline challenges. The DLR Cutty's Ark Station. What we've been doing is we've had a working group with TfL and the World Heritage Site Group and the Royal Borough, and we've been doing a few interventions around Greenwich DLR Station, which is 10 minutes up the road. This is a billboard that's been approved, that's currently in production. Nothing happens quickly with TfL. This was approved 6 weeks ago, and it's still being built. So as you come off the station from Canary Wharf, you turn left, you come down the steps, that's what you will see very, very shortly. And the core message is welcome to Greenwich, and basically turn left, because some people do turn right and end up in Lewisham. But we have been doing some additional work as well, particularly with the Place and Growth team and Volunteer Centre Greenwich, to do some animation work with volunteers. So for the last 6 weeks, we've had volunteers there at the station, meeting and greeting, providing information, having maps and guides, and again, guiding people. And I've got the figures in, and they're dealing with, every day, probably about 100 enquiries. You know, so it is helping, it is making a difference. I talked about Destination Woolwich before. We did the branding work for the venues, and the venues are adopting this now. This is the kind of the first stage in starting to kind of create the Woolwich brand, and we did this in partnership with with Woolwich Works, with Punch Drunk, GCDA, the university, and Tramshed. This is where destination branding gets interesting. That chart is the most important thing, because the brand, if you think about the brand, it's the glue, and the glue basically brings together those individual brands, and just by promoting themselves as part of something bigger, i.e. Woolwich, they can collectively reach 500,000 people just by coordinating what they say. So I'm trying to get them to not just promote themselves, but promote Destination Woolwich. Destination Woolwich is a website that sits on Visit Greenwich that has everything. So if your ears are pricked for something at Tramshed, with 2 clicks, you can see everything that's happening in Woolwich. So in many ways, we're the kind of the glue that's kind of bringing all that together. And we'll try to do something similar for Eltham, but we're behind that. This is a live project called Enjoy Eltham. Enjoy Eltham's been agreed as a brand. Next week, all the photography and filming is taking place. This has been approved by the Eltham Town Centre Partnership Group and its marketing and events subgroup. So all the real stuff's happening there. Now, but what we're doing particularly is creating a marketing toolkit, which means if you're a business in Eltham, we're going to make it really easy for you to promote yourself within Eltham, with some social media training, with some brilliant photography, some new film work, with some key themes, you know, like adventure, art, heritage, retail, nightlife, etc. So this is early days, which I'm showing you, and in about 6 weeks' time, you'll see what it looks like. So that's Eltham. The only big idea in our tourism plan that is what I'd call have a legacy, or have a real lasting legacy, is Greenwich Waterfront. And we've been doing a lot of work with the council and 12 developers going from Greenwich all the way down to Peabody in the east, to really say, well, listen, there are 12 developers here. Everyone's doing their bit, but does it all integrate? Does it join up? And when decisions are being made on one part in Charlton about hotels or piers, does it help what's happening to the left and to the right? So we're trying to raise awareness of the whole 8-mile stretch and to be a coordinator. And we did an event in January on the boat, which you'll see there, the leader speaking at. We had in one place all 12 developers to talk about their plans, but to talk about what do their plans mean for the whole 8 miles, because the waterfront is a unique selling point. It's 8 miles long, the biggest in London. It's got some amazing bits on it, but it's got some bits that are less amazing. And what we're going to fill them with? Is it more apartments? Is it golf courses? Is it theatres? You know, what is it? So what we're doing is we're trying to help shape the thinking to get it joined up. And this week, the University of Greenwich are doing drone footage across the whole 8 miles, and that's been supported by the council and by Uber by Thames Clippers. So you'll be able to see for the first time ever from a bird's eye view, and also with deep scanning into all the different hotspots and grot spots. So we'll have this kind of arsenal of content, which I think will help the planners and the thinkers and the play shapers to think more about the waterfront. So I'm trying to raise the profile of the waterfront. It isn't just about tourism. I think the benefits are for everybody. But if you think that, you know, if you're in America, you'd have Maritime Greenwich as your kind of heritage zone, and the Peninsula would be your contemporary zone, the Woolwich would be your creative zone, and it all be seen as part of the same thing. It'd be really easy to get to. At the moment, bits of it are and bits of it aren't. So that's what we're trying to achieve. So we're very much trying to be a lobbyist here and try to bring people together. Some challenges. You knew I'd mentioned funding. We'd managed to absorb the last huge cuts by increasing commercial revenue and trimming, moving to a free office, things like that, and a few other things. But now that means if our total income, the council funding is 16%, but that includes the TIC, which is Tourist Information Centre, which is kind of high turnover but low net income. So it's about 30%. So 70% of our real income is coming from the private sector, and 30% from the council. But that means we're having to service, when a business pays us money, some of them will say, there you are, here's £5,000, go and do some wonderful things for Greenwich, and I'll see you next year. Most conversations aren't like that. They're after, what are you going to do for me? And so we have to do a lot of one-to-one work and a lot of support work for businesses, which is fine and it's good and it pays the bills, but it means you've got less time to do the more strategic job around destination. And expectations are high and capacity is low. You know, we've got 9 people, so people think we're a big brand, but I've got 9 people. We're looking at new funding models. Michelle Rankin is coming to our board next week to talk about bids, and I think the council looking at potentially 3 town centre bids, and we could have a role in those bids to do not everything, but some of the work. And tourism tax is back on the agenda. You'll have seen, I'm happy to take questions on that in terms of how that could or couldn't work. And again, we could have potentially in the future have a slightly different or wider role. Some DMOs across the country do a lot more work on town centres or inward investment, and people like in Manchester, they do a lot more than just tourism. So there are different, we could change in the future, but those are some of the kind of core challenges coming through. So yeah, so basically, that's everything. Only 20 minutes, I think. Hopefully, that's given you something to think about.
No, there's lots to think about. Yeah, thank you very, very much for that presentation. I think it's very clear the kind of fantastic role that you have in kind of promoting the borough and supporting jobs and growth. So yeah, thank you so much. I think it's really helpful for us to see that, because sometimes we don't realise all the amazing work you're doing behind the scenes. So I guess I could hand over to any of our panellists. Do we have any questions for Barry? Yeah, oh, everyone's got questions. I'll start with Roshang. Yeah, Councillor.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Barry, for that interesting presentation. It's really amazing to hear what you're doing with just 9 people. So yeah, great. I just have a couple of questions. So we've got, I mean, just from the perspective, from the local perspective and residents and the events that we host to encourage more visitors, you talked initially about the right kind of people coming to Greenwich. So we've had a number of events which has caused a lot of disturbances with residents, and residents have said that they don't feel it's the right kind of event that creates the image, the right image for Greenwich. particularly some of the kind of loud, noisy events that create antisocial behaviour. So are you kind of tracking how the events are unfolding and the contracts we have with these with events people, and monitoring what is working to support our brand as opposed to not?
I'm guessing you're talking about Labyrinth at the Royal Naval College, which is quite an unusual event for that space. The old Greenwich music time was more like Tom Jones and the Cliff Richard kind of formula, wasn't it? And this was something else, which is not my cup of tea. So we have an events coordination group. So we, all the key events organisers, we have a separate subgroup. So we all know each other, we all talk to each other, and we monitor everything, and we do get feedback. We have had some feedback on Labyrinth, but I think there were probably 2 complaints that came our way that we picked up. But I know the Royal Naval College have had more. But I do know it's been a massive commercial success. The events sold itself, made a lot of money, and the old Royal Naval College needs that kind of revenue because their government funding is, I think it's going down to virtually 0. So they have to kind of fix the roof somehow. But that's quite an unusual thing for them to do. I'm with Matthew Mees next week, actually, so I've not had any real feedback formally because of holidays and things like that. I can only give you an anecdote, but it wasn't exactly a rave. It wasn't like but I know it was a bit more young and raucous than what we've had before. But I wasn't at it. I was away, and so to answer your question, I need to speak to a few more people and get a bit more data. I don't know yet, but not much has come my way in terms of a complaint.
I mean, just to say that this is really about protecting our brand, and so it would be good for you to kind of understand that a bit better, and how events like that can deter future visitors from Greenwich, with the reputation of Greenwich as a great place to visit.
Yeah, Simon.
Hello, and thank you again for the presentation. It's very interesting. I had a couple of questions around some of the numbers. So just not being in the industry, in terms of the number of jobs created, I'm just curious where you get the figures from.
There's an economic impact model called STEAM.
Okay.
There's also one called the Cambridge model. There are 2. So if you go around the country, anyone that does this and measures it like this, costs about 10k a year. There are only 2 models out there. And STEAM is a model that actually the council were using even before Visit Greenwich was set up. So it goes back to, I think, 2008. So no model is perfect, but what I would say is that what goes into the model is perfect, because I don't know we're the only destination that I know of that gets real commercial data from everybody. Not easily, but we get all the information from the hotels, the attractions, the river operators, the trains, the town centre counters, everyone. We get the real commercial figures, and we sign NDAs where need be, and we aggregate it, and we feed it into the model. So the way the data has been collected has been in the same way through the same model for 17 years. So what it's really good on is trends and tracking stuff. And it's very good on the visitor numbers, so it's really accurate on visitor numbers. Like I said, so 19 million compared to when we were set up, I think it was 14 million. That is 100% accurate. It comes from real data fed into a model. It spurts out figures to do with economic impact and spend and jobs, which is a bit more subjective. Again, that's using national data from government and from Visit Britain. So, for example, government say that for every £70,000 that is spent by tourists, that creates a job. Now, how they work that out, I've not seen, but everyone seems to accept it. Okay. So we're kind of going with, so if our data's crap, then Manchester's is crap and Bath is what, you know. So that is the more subjective one, but what I would say is that the model, there's nobody who's doing it. There's no other way of doing it. Yeah. And that's where it comes from, really.
Yeah, I was just generally curious, like just to, working with numbers for work, and just curious how that happens. But yeah, the other thing I was going to ask, in terms of Enjoy Eltham, which, you know, as an Eltham councillor, I'm quite excited about. But you mentioned as well about the this kind of trying to get the balance between the kind of high street and the heritage, and I'm just wondering if you could expand on that a little bit, what your thoughts are.
Well, if you look at some of the heritage assets, and obviously Eltham Palace is the main one. But the way English heritage is set up, it's set up sub-regionally. So to actually even connect to them to local level is really difficult, even for us, let alone if you're on the high street. And then you've got other assets, haven't you, which are in the hinterland, like, you know, Sevendrug, and then you've got the golf club, and you've got Avery Hill, and so you've got these kind of assets around and the town centre. And at the moment, there's nothing that joins it up at all. There's nothing, even in terms of information, really. So what we're trying to do is, the first thing is by creating the brand Enjoy Eltham with the marketing toolkit and creating the hashtag. So if you type in Enjoy Eltham, through Visit Greenwich, you're going to find a microsite, which will have on everything that's happening in Eltham, including where to eat, where to stay, what's on, with live and dynamic events information, all the heritage assets, all in one single place. And that's it. And the moment we've got some of that, now we'll have all of it, and it'll be dynamic. So as events kind of come and go, that's refreshed through our back-end system through Visit Greenwich. So Eltham will benefit from the traffic from Greenwich, which gets a million people a year. Look at Visit Greenwich website. But also it's got a direct way in just to promote Eltham as Eltham. So you can have like 2 bites at it. So it'll create some tools that will allow, if you're a town centre business like the Sky Bar, for example, you can promote yourself, but in connect yourself to everything else that's going on in a really, really simple way and for free. So we're spending 20 grand on this toolkit with a bit of training. That means that it'll make it really easy. And then what you'll have is this kind of viral effect where everyone will be talking about Eltham in a very coherent way. Everything will be joined up. At the moment, it's kind of scattered.
I'd also put a plug in for, we've got an arts and crafts estate in my ward, the Progress Estate, which is well worth a visit if you,
Okay.
when you're out doing the photos, the Progress Estate.
Okay.
So William Morris inspired sort of.
I'll make sure it's on the list.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I was very pleased to see the DLR signage is going up, because actually someone emailed me about it 2 days ago, and now I know what to reply to them. I can send. So that's really good, and it's obviously painful having costs like DLR, but we've been banging our heads for 4 years trying to get them to repair it, and it's got to be done, and it will hopefully just be much better when it is done. There's, in Greenwich town centre, I mean, it's hard to get away from sort of sometimes there's conflict between tourists and residents, because there are so many tourists that come into the town centre. But I mean, it's largely good. But in terms of the nighttime economy, that is really difficult to crack.
Evening economy.
Well, no, nighttime economy. We want a nighttime economy as well. But I mean, like in Greenwich town centre, there's a new event space that's opened. Get lots of complaints. There's lots of weddings. It's bringing in lots of business, but it's also creating lots of noise late at night. And then if we try to open nighttime things in Woolwich, I think the police object, because they say, well, that's an extra drain on our resources. How are you going to fund that? And then residents, how in your view would we solve that difficult conundrum?
Well, so the expression is, our sector comes up with some real great names. It's called over-tourism. I've got no idea why they come up with such a silly name, but you'll see haven't you, in like Tenerife and Santorini and Dubrovnik and Venice, this fact that Venice is a bad one, isn't it, where you feel like you literally can't live there anymore. You're literally forced out of your home. We're way off that. I mean, way off. I mean, we might have bits of it in the summer on the weekend, and that's it. But the glaring gap is in the winter. So what we proved with the High Streets for All funding, if you remember a couple of years ago, we did the kind of, we lit up the World Heritage Site celebrating Diwali and Luna. And that was really tasteful. It was beautiful, tasteful. And it brought in thousands of people, mainly London families. So it brought in a different crowd. So for Maritime Greenwich, I think the answer is that in the winter, you make it for local people, and you come up with activities that maybe not like Labyrinth or maybe less raucous, you know, celebrating our assets. You know, the World Heritage Site should be lit. I mean, if you're in Brussels at the Grand Place, it's lit up every night. The World Heritage Site should be lit up properly every night and linked to some celebration and bring in local people. And then they'll stay longer and go to the Greenwich Market, etc. So I think we've proved this, and the report shows it clearly that, you know, let's say Greenwich is for the tourists in the summer, and it's for local people in the winter. I mean, it's a bit crude, that, but I think that's the answer, because then you're smoothing the peaks and troughs, and then if you're a business that's busy all year round, you can recruit more full-time people rather than temporary labour, and then salaries go up, and GVA goes up, and it's better for everyone. So that seasonality, I think, is the key for Maritime Greenwich, and then with the Peninsula, it's the opposite. But that's why I'm so keen to get the two Greenwiches more aligned as part of the same thing, because they're completely complementary, aren't they? You know, the Peninsula's really busy at night. It's like the flip side of the coin, isn't it, literally? If you could make it even easier to get there on that pathway, to walk, cycle, run, hoverboard, or whatever it is, or more boats, they physically come close together. You've got 2 9 million visitor markets that are very different, that could complement each other, and are seen as part of the same thing. And it is moving together a bit, but the overlap's about 5%. So if you kind of, so you do see people in Maritime Greenwich looking for the cable car. You do see people going to, you know, to the O2 watching Iron Maiden, who the day after want to go to the Royal Observatory. You do see this, but the more you see it, then I did some maths, I can't remember the figures, but if you double the overlap, you're talking about another 100 million quid spend, because it's lots of people, and that's why I think getting this connectivity, particularly on the waterfront, is the key. So phase one, the two Greenwiches, then phase two, bringing in Woolwich, and eventually the whole thing. I think that is would be the legacy and the game changer that would make a huge difference. But it's not easy.
I mean, it's interesting because when you go out in restaurants in Greenwich Town Centre and there's like a big gig on at the O2 the following night, you know, so if you're out on a Friday night, you'll often see people who are obviously too and really young, and you think, sometimes I'm the oldest one in there. It's terrible, but do you know? Because I mean, you know, I've been a councillor 11 years, and we didn't used to have that many hotels in Greenwich, and like the number of hotels over the last decade is massive. And then you've got sort of the short-term lettings, you know, your Airbnb. Do we know what impact that has had in people? Because I know there was over years of trying to get people not to just visit for the night, but to stay and do stuff.
If you want to build a more sustainable destination, which is better for everybody and better on the environment and better for economic impact and jobs, we need more hotels, more rooms, and particularly in that kind of 4-star boutique area, because you've got the Intercontinental, which is effectively 5-star, but it's a corporate hotel. It's huge, 450 odd bedrooms, but it's mainly conference hotel in the daytime, and it does well off the O2 and things like that. And then you've got the DoubleTree, which is beautiful but small. But in the World Heritage Site area, it's a pretty much of a 2-3-star offering, isn't it? Which is unusual for, if you were in Bath, you'd have a different kind of makeup. So we need more hotels. We need more upscale hotels. We only have 4,000 rooms, which is not a lot. So 7% of tourists stay overnight, which is really low, and that's 93% are kind of flying in, flying out. So you know, if you were to make 7% become 10%, it would make a big difference, because I think someone staying overnight spends, I think, triple what Davis spends. So the average spend in the West End, where people are staying overnight, is like 400 or 500 quid per day, and here it's 100. So we have got more hotels. You know, Zedwell have come in as well, at a different level, but we need more really. We did have the figures for Airbnb. Last time I looked, it was about 500 rooms, but I think their brand is starting to dim a bit, isn't it? It's not cheap. And there's been a bit of bad PR, hasn't there, on Airbnb globally. But yeah, it was about 400. But yeah, but I think I've been feeding this into the place and growth team for some time, saying, you'd expect here, wouldn't you, a Malmaison or a Hotel de Van or something of that kind of, and your travel lodges and premiums are great. Well, they're great in one respect, but they're very passive, and their policy is not to engage locally. So they don't engage at all. At all, they won't put 1 penny or 1 minute of their time into anything, and that's a national issue. And they also pay low salaries. So it's at the top end where you have the most impact. But it's about getting the balance right. But we're certainly not overrun with hotel accommodation. 4,000 rooms is not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the only hotel I think that does a lot for the community is probably the Novotel in Greenwich Town Centre, and they work.
Novotel are really, actually, yeah, they're really good. As are Doubletree. Doubletree are really good. Yeah, they're probably the best two, I think. Yeah. And
then last thing is you've probably seen that we've signed a deal with Lime Bikes finally to control them. But there's nothing on your website about arriving by bicycle. You've got arriving by public transport. What about bicycle? There's if you go to Cutty Sark Gardens on a sunny Saturday, thousands of people on bikes.
This was presented to the World Heritage Site executive about a year ago, and it didn't go down well at all with anybody on the World Heritage Site because of the mess, the bikes, the way they're often left. And I think the last time I heard from Ryan when he presented, they were talking about having some kind of proper storage stations.
So we're making it so people have to park in designated bays, which will control.
Is that here now then? Is it?
We've signed the deal. I'm not sure they've actually drawn all the bays yet. I don't think.
We're not deliberately not promoting it. It's just that it had quite a bad airing, and I'm yet to hear. We knew what was coming, but we haven't yet seen the kind of the final kind of plan. But if what you're saying happens, then yeah, I mean, why would we not promote it? We would promote it.
All right, thank you very much. Some really interesting insights, I think, especially on how we get people to stay overnight. That's something for us, I think, to go away and think about. And I was not surprised at all to hear of the reach of the Greenwich. I think when it launched, I couldn't get away from it. And I actually went to see Wicked as a result. I guess are there any learnings, I guess, from that project? And I think the Unmissable Time, which I was reading about as well, seems like quite a good project that, to shape some of the future campaigns that do have that kind of big global reach.
Part 2 is coming next, maybe. I don't know.
Well, so that'd be nice, wouldn't it? They come back. And I guess the other question that I had really is, you sort of indicated, as with everything at the moment, that funding is a challenge. Mm-hmm. So I guess how vulnerable are you at the moment with sort of fluctuations in commercial revenue?
No, we're okay at the moment. We're turning over £1 million a year. Last year we made a surplus, I think, of £1,000. So we are designed not to make surpluses, in case the council asks for the money back. But no, we've built up a surplus of about 20k now. I think our reserves are about 20k, which is not a lot. But no, we're commercially in quite good shape. I kind of think that we've kind of pushed with the current model. The current model, in my opinion, is stretched as far as it can, and the danger is that the elastic band would go. What I'd say is that any new funding setup, I think, needs a different approach. So I think the bids and the tourism tax are opportunities for Visit Greenwich to play a wider role and get more involved with things. So we've been doing a lot of work with Michelle Rankin and her team on looking at various bid models, business improvement districts. So if you look around the country, organisations like ours, some of them actually are bids. So if you go to South Bank or West End or Cambridge, Southport, they actually are bids fully. But more often than not, the DMO will work with the bid alongside them. So the bid will do the public realm job and town centre management. The DMO will do more the marketing, visitor services, business support, and the animation, kind of softer side, and then they kind of can work really well close together. So that's the opportunity, I think. And if we can get those set up and those aligned to them in the right way, I think it would be a better model for the future. But the commercial leverage we've got at the moment is, I can't think how we're going to improve it on the current approach, because there aren't many businesses left we aren't working with. And now is not the time to ask for more money. When we had the last funding cut, we increased our fees by 10%. That was a one-off increase. That kind of worked, but I don't think that's necessarily the answer moving forward. But and we're really lean. I mean, I don't have a PA. Our office costs are zero. There's no fat. I'll challenge your finance team to look into our forensically, and there is no fat anywhere. None of our staff are on. We're all separate from the council. There's no 2P anymore. There's no kind of liabilities in there. We're kind of lean and. But I think, and this conversation is happening across the whole country as well. It's not just here. And you might have heard about Kent recently. Kent went bust, and they're seen as one of the more professional operators. But still trying to find out what happened there. But anyway.
Thank you. That's very helpful to have a bit more understanding. And we have heard at this scrutiny panel about some of the work that might be coming with the bids. So we're watching this space as well. So it's good to hear that you've sort of been involved in those conversations. And I guess, following the kind of, with the council's funding challenge in mind, are there other ways that, I guess, what other support, do you need from the council or from us as councillors or from a panel to sort of support your strategy? I mean, you've touched on some things, but is there anything else that you can think of that
to be honest with you, we've been working 11 years now, and I think the relationship with the council has never been better at every level, be it directly with Stuart and his team, with the board. Our board's really strong. We have a dotted line to the place and growth team as well, which works well. So in terms of relationships and joined up thinking, it's never been better. The challenge will just be, unfortunately, money. But in terms of alignment of thinking and trust and working together and adding value, this new culture board that's been set up, that's another opportunity, I think, for us to work with. It's really. I think we're in good shape. I think politically, strategically, we're in good shape. It's just more about having a new approach, I think, which is more sustainable. Because I think we could do a lot more at the moment. We're not in survival mode, but we're kind of, it's. We have been a little bit, and we're trying to go on the front foot rather than on the back foot, because I think we're one of the few organisations that you work with who actually bring money in. Everything we do is bringing people in. And that event at UK Inbound brought in about 100 grand's worth of spend into Woolwich Works. You know what I mean? And that's before they start spending money in the restaurants and bars. So we bring money in, which is, I think we're unique in that respect. So I'd like people to think as though we're an investment rather than a cost.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And for the panel at the back, if you did want to contribute anything or have any thoughts you wanted to add, you're welcome to. I know you're all sort of related, but I think Barry has covered it very well, so don't feel any pressure. So if there's, Roshan?
Sorry, just to follow up on what you're saying, you said that you could do more. So what do you need to be able to do more?
A brief and a mandate. So I think we could do more around our core capabilities in terms of what we do. So I think we could help a bit more on broader place promotion, for example. We've never really been asked to get involved much in that before. So helping. I don't mean taking over what the council does, but I mean helping what the council already does. That could be an area. Could you do more on town centres? I think a bit more delivery work around events and things like that. But we'd need a brief and some capacity and resource to do that. But I think our capability would allow us to do more.
So by brief and mandate, you mean the council working with you to develop that mandate and support you to put that in place?
Well, a bit like the Elton project. So that is an additional project that's come in through shared prosperity funding, where Michelle Rankin's team have asked us to look at Eltham and do a piece of work on a particular project, which is over and above our SLA. But there are massive synergies to it, but it's additional work that's linked to the SLA. So more project work like that is a good example.
So would it be helpful for the council to pull together a team that, or volunteers, I don't know, that would then look at some motivating projects or some innovative projects that they could then take to you, or ideas for that?
Yeah, if it needs to link to place, because our core knowledge and skills is on place. It has to be. We can't, if it's not on place, we can't add value. But if it's to do with place from any different angle, I think we can add value. We do a lot of work with universities, for example. I mean, universities are places, aren't they? Different kind of places. We do a lot of work with the university, Greenwich, for example, and Ravensbourne. So yeah.
Maybe then, Izzy, we could kind of explore that further.
We can take that as a way as a kind of recommendation, and we'll have a chat after about what that could look like. But yeah, we can go away and think about that. Another thing that is worth flagging, that the Overview and Scrutiny panel is hopefully going to be doing a task and finish group on town centres in particular, looking over this next year, and it's not sort of kicked off yet, and there's still some kind of initial work to do, but that's definitely something that we would want partners like yourself, because it sounds like your sort of vision for the town centres is aligned with some of the things that we're looking at and talking about. So yeah, very helpful to hear that you're keen. And if there's no other questions from the panel, then we can finish up a little early. So thank you so much again. It's been really, really, really interesting, and lots for us to go away and think about.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And then we can close the meeting, I think. Oh, sorry, there's another agenda item. There's one more. Just to note the scheduled works for the 5th of November meeting, and consider the scope and detail of forthcoming reports. Do we have, I can't remember what's at the next meeting. We're looking at small parades and markets, so do go and think about some of our smaller little areas. Thanks. All right, have a lovely evening.